Hey everyone, happy Wednesday. I have a quick but powerful update for you today. We have made a lot of great progress in the last week. We have modified our bathing area within the resort to have the FRP kind of vinyl paneling up the wall further and swapped out old deplorable baseboards for stainless steel baseboards, fixing a tub area, adding a new sink with a great faucet and drying system for pet bowls. So a lot of really awesome things have happened in that area that we're really proud of. Our next big project is we're moving on to modifying another apartment in the apartment complex to be more management space. Now with this, I want you to think about this. We're not necessarily adding managers, but we're adding more space for training and for meetings and for managers to do their work. Kind of all part of driving the good to great. It's going to prevent us from having to stack up in the back office room of the apartment. We'll have a little bit more space where we can spread out and do those things and have dual purpose meetings. Since we're not able to utilize the daycare room quite as often and with as much ease as we used to for meetings and training. So now we're occupants of unit C and D in the apartment. That's really exciting. We're starting to move in now and fix it up to where it can be a great space. Specifically, I'm excited to have Sprout School being revived a bit, changing the way that it looks a little bit just to make it happen with a little bit more ease. So that should be coming together within the next couple weeks. Really proud of that. We're in the process of fixing our parking lots. So as you know, there's kind of a sinkhole in the back parking lot. There's drainage issues in both the front and the back. The concrete isn't evenly spread because of all of this. We're not able to paint parking lines because when it floods, they'd erase. All these things are kind of going on, and we've come up with the solution. Pretty soon, within the next week or 2 weeks, we should be able to have our ditches dug out, our culverts repaired, that sinkhole repaired, and then we can move back to get on track with painting lines, having tire bumpers put in, those types of things that would be pointless to do before we get the drainage issue fixed. So thank you for your patience, for working through a less than ideal parking situation and just still making it happen. But solutions are on the way. I just wanted to share. All right, so here's some things that we've been working on throughout the practice as far as processes this week. We've had a series of right the wrong meetings where we've talked about how to fill that 2% void where we make mistakes and how to be prepared to work our way out of that. So I kind of think about that as like we've dug a hole. This is how we kind of fill it in to create a better foundation for what our next phase of the process is, which is going to be the build, make it better, right? Good to great. So we've got this little deficit. Right the wrongs is about fixing those little things. And then the next phase is how do we prevent them? And then how do we be better because we've prevented them? So the Right the Wrong system completely launched as of today. Those I'm so sorry codes are in place. They are active. You can begin utilizing them when you need. Continue utilizing incident reports when you use those. Those will automatically go to the right people to let them know that you've done so. And then also one of the other things that we had to add was an appointment color. We added it as black. That's for priority scheduling on the Avamart calendar. And then finally, we put the FedEx supplies in place so that if you need to ship an item or a prescription, you should have everything that you need. You've got the FedEx forms, you've got the boxes, and then you can just schedule with FedEx a pickup so that it'll happen from here the way that you want it to. Everything should be in place. You've got the manager on call system to guide you through that, and we're off and rolling. Right the wrongs. The next thing that I wanted to talk about was eye care. Eye care has been awesome and a blessing to our practice. We've been able to connect people who couldn't have otherwise afforded the care that their pets need with that. However, very time consuming, and time consuming for people who don't do it as frequently, it takes a lot more time, right? If you don't do something all the time, it's not as routine, it seems foreign, and it's going to take longer. So this is what happens when some nurses are doing eye care. If you think that it's taking you more than 5 minutes or so to get an eye care payment underway, to get that contract going, I would like to defer to a customer care team member who's in the building at a time. Now, this does not apply to all shifts. All shifts are not created equally, sorry to say. In the middle of the night, late night on the weekends, when we don't have a customer care team member in the building for certain aspects, the nurses do have to fill in and you have to do eye care. But during times where there's a customer care team member up front, I would like for them and the nurse to swap places for an eye care transaction and application, meaning the nurse goes to the front desk and the customer care team member comes into the exam room with the client to make that happen, because I think it's the most efficient way. This is not a permanent solution. This is not a long-term solution. The long-term solution is, let's get everybody up to speed on this and let's make sure that we have the right people here at all the right times. Long-term meaning, that's what we have to work towards. But this is a good right now solution to help to make sure that we're keeping things moving and that we're as efficient as we can be, utilizing everybody's time to the best of the abilities. So eye care only done by CCS team members. That doesn't mean that a nurse doesn't have a responsibility in it still. You need to go still, stand in their place and fulfill those things, make good use of their time. But that's what we want done. Another thing that we've kind of decided on this week is putting a hard stop on when discharges can be done. So let me give you the why here. When we have patients being discharged from either hospitalization or surgery by team members who are not as fluent in that patient's care, or maybe getting that information third or fourth party, no wow is being created. It causes a lot of stress, it causes a lot of distraction, and it leaves the client shortchanged. So we are starting to modify our nurses' shifts to compensate for having a discharge team member here, especially for surgeries, until 7 p.m. That creates a hard stop where we're not going to be able to discharge patients after 7 p.m. Although we're open 24/7. There's some exceptions that would happen to that. One exception would be if the doctor wants to do a discharge and it's been arranged that way, and there's a special time made for that. Or if the client has no other choice and they've prearranged it to a point where we can compensate for that. Those two instances are going to be incredibly rare, especially because we're going to help to modify clients from doing that by charging hospitalization for their overstay. So here's how it would look. If we have a patient here for a teeth cleaning and extractions and they stay beyond 7 p.m., there would be a $60 hospitalization charge for them going into the next night of hospitalization, and then they could be discharged the next day, or they would pay this and this would compensate for the disruption in the team. I want you to think about this as all angles. This is not a financial punishment or an area for extra financial gain for our practice. This is reality because these discharges are throwing our appointment schedule off, and ultimately that money would be used to fund having another nurse here specifically to do those, because I feel so passionately that a discharge needs to be done appropriately and that clients need to be well informed of the care that their pets received while with us and need to continue to receive from them in the end. In other words, a discharge is so important that that's what needs to happen. So this is how we pay for that to happen if we have to afford it otherwise. I hope that makes sense to you, and I hope you're at peace with it. Here's what makes it fair, is that you can only ever imply a charge if you've warned the person about that. Think about the fact that sometimes we take for granted that pets have dentistries and have surgeries because we do dozens of them per week. However, the reality is, for an individual owner of one or maybe two pets, That's a pretty significant event because their pet's gone under anesthesia and it's just one time. They only get spayed or neutered one time. They only ever usually have a major surgery one other time, or a teeth cleaning once every year or every other year. So these are events that they plan for and that they prepare for. And if we make this part of the preparation, they shouldn't be surprised by the fact that we're going to want to slow down at the end and tell them where they can pick up where we're leaving off. So we need to make that part of the conversation when we're confirming the appointment to say, hey, we do discharges between 5 and 6:30 p.m. That leaves them a little extra 30-minute window, by the way, to where if they are running late or messing up, that they're not going to be penalized. And say, if your pet's not out of our hospital by 7 p.m., hospitalization charges begin at $60 per night. So I think in doing it that way, it's very appropriate and very fair, and something that people can concede with plans for. It was brought up kind of in debate on whether to do this. What about the people who don't get off work until 6:30 or 7 o'clock? Well, it would just be the same of what about the people who don't get off work until 8 or 8:30 or 9 or midnight or whatever. You have to just pick a line and say the majority of people are off work by 6 p.m. and could make it before 7 p.m. And that's when we can afford to have the nurse. A hard stop is about drawing the line in the sand and not going over it. So it's firm. We're firm on that number, and there won't be much flex over it. Again, only for very special occasions that are prearranged, where it's for the best interest of the patient and the majority here. So no discharges past 7 p.m. We're going to do some heavy coaching with the customer care team on when and how to say that exactly, and everyone knows that it's enforced and this is effective immediately. In brighter conversation, the barcode scanner is ready to be put to use. Every retail item and bag of food is in the system. We should always be using the scanner, always. So I see this time and again because I come here to buy my food and everybody wants to start typing to search, but it has a barcode. You have a scanner, make that happen. That's our number one mistake. And when everybody starts fussing because inventory's off on a certain item or we run out of something, y'all, that's why. Dawn and Lauren, Melinda even, work very, very diligently to make sure all of our order points are correct. So it's really up to the team to make sure that inventory is correctly deducted. Use the advantages that you have. You have these barcode scanners on retail items and food, as well as many other supplies. They all have barcodes. Use the scanners. The more that we see you using those and that we see inventory accurately reflected, we'll be encouraged to continue to use barcodes for other things so that we can make our inventory perfect. And in this perfect world that we're creating, we never run out of supplies. So that's the end goal. You got to do your part to make sure that we get there. So start using those every time, and we'll make sure that we work towards that goal of perfect inventory. I know that Lauren's made laminated sheets and so on with extra codes. You just got to make sure that you use them. Use the scanners. They're everywhere. Okay. Next thing, last thing, personal conversations in the lab have got to stop. They have got to stop. We're going to be enforcing this because it's inappropriate. It's distracting from patient care, and mostly they're not appropriate conversations that are happening. So when you combine all those reasons, we just cannot allow it to happen. Cursing is a problem. It's gotta stop. I don't want to have to say that again. I shouldn't have to say that again. Clients are hearing it. I heard of a client hearing it in room 7 just yesterday. That's so bad, and you should be so embarrassed. Just don't do that. Don't do that in the lab. This is a business. We're professionals. We are driving our business based on compassion. That just destroys the whole thing. So don't make me say that again. Just do better. You know better. All right, y'all. Those are the updates this week. Stay after it. Good job. See you in apartment D. Can't wait to show it off once we get it fixed up. Have a good one.